we are discussing about the ROM, read-only memory. ROM is used for storing programs that are permanently resident on the computer for tables of constants that do not change in the value once the production of computer is completed. This is what we have seen when you have seen in your first year lab, in a hardware lab, that you might have seen a BIOS chip, right? So there it is programmed once, which means that the whatever the content is there in that will not be changed, right? So that is generally this ROM is made empty, and then there it will be next it will be programmed, so that it will be called as a programmable read only memory, right? So coming on to the other is EEPROM and EEPROM. We will see what it is one by one. So here the RAM holds the program and data permanently, and it can be read by the CPU, and that consists of ROM or fixed at the time of manufacture, and stores the program is called a bootstrap loader. That is generally when we are starting a computer, it is loading operating system. So the bootstrap programmer will inform that the operating system from where it should has to be loaded. This is a bootstrap loader. Coming on to the other is access time is between 10 to 50 nanoseconds. So ROM versus RAMs, that is RAMs are, you know that it is a volatile, and this is non-volatile. Means that once it is programmed, the data will be as it is forever. And in the RAM, whenever the power is switched off, automatically the content will be lost, right? So, and the other one is it is a bit slow when compared with the RAMs. So coming on to the structure, it will be looking into like this. It has got the n inputs, 2 power n 2 power n words by m bits to implement the m arbitrary functions of n variables. See here, uh, this structure. See, we have a decoder. So we have a 3 input lines. We will be calling it these 3 input lines. Let us name it A, B, and C, right? So with these 3 inputs, 2 power n words means 2 power 3, which is 8 words are possible, and each word is of 5 bits. So there are 1 to 8 words, and each is of 1 to 5 bits, and those 5 I'll be calling it as F0, F1, F2, F3, F4. Okay. So see this, the structure. So it is a n input lines. So 2 power n outputs. So we can be calling it as a decoder, 2 to n to 2 power n decoder. So that will be showing in this way a memory array 2 power n words cross m bits, and it has got the m output lines. So here, see here how it will be is, it will be in this way, 3 to 8 decoder. So the 3 inputs are ABC, and its outputs is M0 to M7. So the outputs are F0, F1, F2, F3, F4. These are the output lines from the ROM, right? So these are called the M. So 2 power, this is n, 2 power n, and this is m word, right? So here everything is connected in this way. This is called a connectivity fuse. So we are programming it. For example, you are connecting this one, then it is called a programmable. For example, see how this f0 is programmed. So where it is connected, it is connected in 4 locations. So here, here, and here, right? So where it is connected, it is connected at m1, and it is connected at M3, it is connected at M6 and M7. So F0 expression will be M1 plus M3 plus M6 plus M7. Similarly, so this is what is a array of your ROM memory. Okay, so types of ROMs, just now we told programmable read-only memory. So when it is manufactured, it is an empty ROM, empty memory, and it can be programmed once by the user. Once it is programmed, now you cannot use it further. Only one time. You cannot change it, the program in this further. Is only one time. So erasable programmable read-only memory means, suppose in this PROM, if you programmed it and by mistake there is a error in the program, so you cannot erase it. But the other thing is that you can go for EPROM, where it can be, the contents can be erased and it can be reprogrammed. So how it is erased is, the EPROM chip has a small window on top of allowing it to be erased by subjecting it to a ultraviolet light onto it. So there will be a, if suppose if this is your ROM chip, then there will be a small window, and that ultraviolet light is exposed onto this. Automatically the entire memory will be erased, and then you can reprogram it. That is what is a erasable programmable read-only memory. And the other one is electrically erasable. So sometimes ultraviolet is not easily available. So in that case, that will be going for, there are separate machines are available. So we'll keep this chip under that, and we subject it to a small electric thing. So automatically the programs will be erased. That is what is EEPROM, electrically erasable. So the name itself indicates that the erasing technique will be electrical. And the flash ROM, similar to EPROMs. So these are very high speed and high storage devices we are using. These are the flash ROMs. So these about the ROM. Coming on to the next part, that is a cache memory. So cache memory is what we can call as, it is an interface between your processor and a main memory. Remember, this main memory is nothing but your RAM, right? Or you can call it as ROM. Generally we'll be taking it as a RAM. So processor, whenever it wants to execute some instruction, then it is fetching a data from the main memory, that is from the RAM, right? So it will be, the processing speed is very high. The RAM may not be able to supply the at that speed. So what we do is, now we are using an intermediary memory called a cache memory. So what will happen is, there are frequently referenced ones will be available here. For example, if you open your browser, type G, what will happen? Automatically the Google will be shown, google.com or gmail.com. So those are stored in the locally temporary memory, that is cache to that. So if you clear it, automatically everything contents will goes off. So in that way, the cache memory is here. The processor which is referring the instructions very frequently will be stored here, so that the access time will be very fast, and it can access and it can execute and then send the output, right? So here it is, see, CPU needs a memory reference, then the cache is examined first, and if it is found, then it is called hit. Suppose some data is needed by the processor, and it checks first in the cache whether it is available or not. Then if it is available, then it will be loaded from here to here, then this is called hit. Suppose if it is not available in a cache memory, then it has to get it from the main memory. This is called a miss, right? And the other one, see, in your browser, suppose if you open that and you type something called W, right? www will be available. If not www dot, then if you type W, then the website starts with W may not be available, or you may not be opened so far, then automatically it won't show anything, right? It has to go to the net and it has to get it. Whereas if you type G, where you are regularly accessing Gmail or Google, so that G, when you type www.g, automatically Gmail and Google and whatever that starts with G that you accessed so far, that will be shown. So in that way, so memory reference from here it will be taken, and this will be loaded into the processor and executed, right? So see here, that is what, if a memory reference is available, then it is called a hit, and if a memory reference is not available, then it is called a miss. Generally the hit ratio will be calculated as number of hits. Number of hits means that wherever it is available, if a memory reference is available in cache, it is called hit, and divided by the total number of hits plus misses. So hits and miss means the total number of memory references made. For example, the CPU wants to execute 3 instructions. If it checks first one, it is found, then it is called hit, and the next two is not found, then it is found in this place, then this is called a miss. So one hit plus two misses, this is total memory references made by the CPU, and so 1 by 3 will be the hit ratio. Cache memory generally it is 5 to 10 times faster than that of your main memory. Okay, so here there are three different types of techniques, that is mapping technique, associative mapping technique, and set associative mapping technique. So for this we are considering an example, a cache memory consisting of 128 blocks of 16 words each for a total of 2k words. Total words is of 2048, that is we call it as a 2k. 1k is equal to 1024, and assume that the main memory, that is a RAM, is addressable by a 16-bit address. Same, the main memory has 64k words. Here only in the cache is only 2k, whereas the RAM main memory is 64k, which will be as 4k blocks of 16 words each. For simplicity, we'll assume this, and the consecutive addresses refers to the consecutive words. So we'll be discussing these three mappings: direct mapping, associative mapping, and set associative. First is a direct mapping. So direct mapping here, before that, you see this slide. Direct mapping is in this way. See, you have got an address that is indexed with index address and a tag that will be stored in this way. See here, this is addressed as 00000. The tag will comes first, index will be later. So if I say that 02777, then this will be the tag and this will be the index in the memory, so in a cache memory, right? So it will be in this way. For example, I want to check 02000, this is index and this is tag. So 000 is here, and I'll check for a tag whether it is 02. So 02 is here, but what its index is 777. So in the cache memory, this particular thing is not available. So what will happen then? A memory reference will be made from here to here. What it will be is, see here, 0 to 0 0 0 0 to 0 0 0 0 to 0 0 0. So what will be the content? 5670 will be taken from this and will be sent to the processor through the cache memory. That is what is direct mapping. So two words with the same index but different tags cannot exist. This is what one of the disadvantage. That's what we discussed, right? So 0200 is not available here, right? So that is a disadvantage. When then it has to go for a memory reference. Okay, the next is associative mapping. So direct addressing is in this way. So direct from the main memory it will be stored. So tag will be here and the block will be here. The data will be taken from this. Coming on to the associative means here the address is totally taken into consideration. Tag as well as the index will be stored together and the data will be here, and particular data will be here, that will be directly will be taken into CPU. If it is not available, then that will be taken from the memory location. This is what is a associative mapping. Coming on to the third point is a set associative. Set associative will be removing the problem of that direct mapping. So direct mapping, suppose if I got 0200 and 000, this one, and if I got a 02000, then both these things will be taken as together, right? See here, 00 will be the index for both, right? And the tag will be a 01. Here I'm taking example, tag will be a 01 and the another tag will be a 02. So 01 it will be a 3450 and 02 it will be a 5670. It will be a 56 right? So 0, 1 and 0, 2 both will be here. This will be removing the problem of your direct mapping. So index will be 0, right? Tag will be 0, 1 and tag will be 0, 2. And similar to that, see, index will be 777, tag will be 0, 2 and tag will be 000. So both the contents will be taken and it will be placed. This is set associative mapping. Okay, so this is about the cache memory. And coming on to the other memory is called a virtual memory. Virtual memory, generally when we are, it is not available as a memory device or memory storage in general. Generally whenever we are installing an operating system, we will be assigning a particular amount, particular data, that is డాట్స్ పెట్టే వాళ్ళు ఎవరో నాకు తెలుసు ఇక్కడ, ఎందుకంటే నేను ఎనేబుల్డ్ ది ఆప్షన్, రైట్, షో ద నేమ్స్ ఆఫ్ అన్నోటెడ్. సో ఆటోమేటిక్గా మీ నేమ్స్ రికార్డ్ అవుతాయి నాకు. లేటర్ విల్ సీ, రైట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో వర్చువల్ మెమరీ హియర్ ఇమ్మీడియట్గా అరెస్ట్ చేయండి. నాకు నేమ్స్ వచ్చాయి, నేను మీకు పర్సనల్గా కాల్ చేస్తాను ఆఫ్టర్ ది క్లాస్, రైట్. Okay, virtual memory. In this virtual memory, generally when we are installing an operating system, what will happen is that it will be asking for dedication of the virtual memory. So how much amount of virtual memory that you need to allocate. Generally we will be allocating some amount of data. Okay, so it's another 10 minutes time is there. We'll try to finish off these memories, virtual memory. So we'll be sharing, we'll be allocating a virtual memory in that operating system when we installing. So how it will be is, see here, the virtual memory, this is your physical memory. Physical memory is nothing but your RAM or main memory, right? This is your secondary memory, right? So apart from this physical memory, some amount of the memory which is dedicated or separately dedicated for to access the physical memory. So suppose if it is content is here or here, instead what will be taken is that content will be brought and will be keep it here, so that it will be easy for the RAM to access from here. That is what is a virtual memory concept. So when the it is here, see, A, B, D, C, D, E, F, G, H, these are all the things that can be done. During this, sometimes the pages were not available. That is called page replacement. Sometimes we need to replace the pages. Suppose if you have got a 7 and if you are going to for another 2, then one has to be replaced. That one we are using an algorithm called page replacement algorithm. For that page replacement algorithm, we'll be looking into the thing after the secondary memory. So the secondary memory, you can see the devices. This is called a floppy, and this is your hard disks, right? This is your memory cards. Nowadays we are not using, most of the people, we are not using these memory cards, right? This CD is almost outdated, and DVD going to be outdated, and this is the one we are regularly using, right? So coming on to the secondary memory, it is stores a large amount of data generally. But see here, this is a floppy, the basic starting of secondary memory, right? It is a capacity of storing only 1.4 MB. See here, I have got one such type of floppy. This is called a floppy, right? Inside there is a magnetic plate is there, and you have got a something called for accessing for the read write head. It will be here, so that can be taken into read or write. And the other one is that this is a CD, right? You know it. And the other one, the other memory is, the very important one is a what we call is a tape drive, right? So tape drive means, you might have seen such type of cassettes, right? Generally whenever there is a function, the persons will starts recording, and then that they will be giving this type of this thing, right? There will be two wheels are there. Inside there will be a tape will be there. It is a serial access device, which means that it is serially. It is not random like a CD, right? It is not random like a CD. See here, the hard disk CD is a random, and this floppy is also a random. Your hard disk is also a random. Everything is a random. The serial access is either a tape drive or this is generally you people may not have used this one. This is called a tape recorder cassette, right? We have a 60 and 90, 60 minutes. That is both sides 30 minutes, and the other one is 90 cassette, which is a 90 45 minutes both sides, right? This will be rotating in this way. One songs will be coming for 30 minutes, and you reverse it and keep it, and another 30 minutes that will be there. That's called a 60 cassette. We used to have a Walkmans, and we need to keep this in that, and we used to play it, right? So this is now just I have shown that's a tape drive. So it is a serial access. It will be stored serially. First song, second song, third song, fourth song, fifth. Suppose if you want to go for fifth, you don't have the other option. You have got only two options. Is one, you need to listen continuously 1 to 5. Otherwise, you have to forward it 4 songs and then you have to listen fifth song. Whereas in the CD, directly you can go for that particular song. That is what is a random. So that is CD. And coming onto the hard disk, your hard disk is a circular plates, magnetic plates, where will be mounted on one over the other with a spindle in between. See here, there is a spindle, right? And it has got a read write head. So both sides, read and write, right? So it start rotating. This is your plate. These are the circular plates. Like your CD, the hard disk, on the hard disk it will be there, right? So this is one thing. It has got both sides is readable and writable. So this is one head and this is the other head. This is starts moving here and there, then automatically the data will be read into or so read from the disk or write onto the disk. That is what is a magnetic hard disk. And remember, if you look into this, see here, there is a small gap, which means that it will not touch the plate as it is magnetically, the plate is magnetically coated and it is rotating at high speed, and this head is also rotating front and back. There will be a magnetic field will be generated, right? And from that the data will be accessed. It's a read from the disk or write onto the disk. That is a magnetic hard disk. Accessing mechanism will be with the help of the magnetism. Okay, so even magnetic tape is also the same case, but the thing is it is a serial access, whereas it is a random access. See here, CD, these are called the optical disc. Your CD is called a optical disc. Optical disc means that the data can be read from or write into using an optical light. If you open your CD drive and you can find that there is a LED there, that will be placed, that will be written onto the CD, or that data will be read from that CD on or DVD into the system. And if you take a DVD drive and run a DVD for another 50 minutes or 30 minutes and try to take out and see it, it will be a bit heat, which means that the light falling on that and data will be reading it, so that it becomes a bit heat. Okay, that is optical disc. This is what is a reading mechanism or writing on mechanism onto the optical discs, and secondary store in the magnetic hard disk, and the other one is a magnetic tape. This magnetic tape still used in CC camera footages. So yeah, there will be a large amount of data if you want to store. This is the only option that we have. It's the best one instead usually, right? So optimal page replacement. There's a I told that magnetic, virtual memory. Sometimes the pages are not available. Then that has to be replaced. Reference will be replaced. So how that one will be done is using two different mechanisms. Using two different mechanisms. That is called as a FIFO, first in first out. Other one is a optimal page replacement algorithm. The other one is a least recently used, right? So we'll see one example for the optimal page replacement. So consider following sequence string 021640, right? So see here 021640103121. These are the pages to be referenced. Now I have a string of 4, right? In this string, what will happen is first this page will be stored, this page will be stored, and next one 2 will be stored, and 1 will be stored, and 6 will be stored. So your memory reference is full, right? So every time it is empty, first it is empty, so every time there will be a hit, sorry, there is a miss, so I call it as a miss. 1 2 3 4. What is the frame length? Automatically those many misses will be there initially, right? So the next one is to be stored is 4, so 1 has to be replaced. In the optimal string, what we do is to store 4, we have to look forward which is coming bit late, which is coming bit late. So see here, 6 will never appear in future. We'll be looking into future, 6 will never appear, so automatically that 6 will be replaced and 4 will be kept, and next one will be 0 1 will be there, so it is a hit, it is a hit, it is a hit. Next one to be 3 has to be there. So time is going to be over. Once the time is over, again please log in back, we will be completing this. Okay, so this 3, up to this 3, everything will be a